I had a question, because it says, you know, bringing in sophomores and juniors. Was this sort of like you enter as a sophomore and you stay? Or is it just you get 1 year and then you can reapply?
Well, I think that's a core part of the question we're asking.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well then.
What's your opinion?
Yeah, well, I think being a member, like starting as one, like if you're a sophomore and then it goes until, you know, you could be one again junior year. I think the application process, there should still be like a second application, but maybe it's less rigorous if you were already in the program. Sort of more of like a reflection from whoever your mentor was and say, hey, they really did stuff with this group. I think they should stay in it, or maybe they shouldn't, and then they have to go through a, you know, like I don't think it should just be like, oh, you made it the first time.
One and done.
You made the cut, let's, you know, see where it goes. I think there should continuously be checkups throughout the year, especially if all you're getting is a monthly meeting from them. Just throughout the whole program of the whole year and throughout the next year, if they keep going, just making sure that students are, you know, keeping on top of what LGM Youth is trying to do.
I don't know if this is what you guys were thinking at all, but I would almost consider making it a 2-year program, where students would enter the November, whatever, of their sophomore year, and then I might consider having some sort of like summer project where all the students from sophomore year would have to do some sort of leadership, something in the community, and then that would be worked on throughout the months where there were no meetings, and then you would come back November of your junior year, and there would be time to reflect on what happened, as well as mentor the incoming sophomores that would be starting their new project. So it'd be just kind of like a continual cycle.
Would you have time during the summer? Would you be able to make time?
I have way more time in the summer at least than I do during the year, so I think it would be, if you were going to have some sort of project like that, summer would be the time to do it.
I just have a question, like, what are you trying, what is your end goal for this program?
Oh, he's throwing it back at us.
Like, how would it be successful for you? Like, what do you want the people?
That's one of our questions.
I'm not like, I feel that, are you trying to get them to like start their own like their own like kind of like programs within this like community, or like do you just want them to have a better awareness of?
Kind of like the purpose of Leadership Greater Madison is to help us as adults understand the civic leadership, understand what the needs are in our community, how can we help address the needs of our community, understanding our diverse population, where there might be programs or something that we can participate in or that we can start off to make our community a better community and have more awareness of the issues I think that are in our community. Lynn, not sure if I stated that well.
That was beautiful. And if that's what you're going for, that's a win.
Yeah. So I think we're trying to do the same, but start with the youth of our community. Again, as adults, you know, we missed out on probably some great years that we could be helping our community a little bit better. And from, you know, what I see and understand, even from kids that are heading off to college, there's a lot more on the college applications, as you might know, about what community service have you done, what civic organizations have you participated in, where have you volunteered, what leadership groups have you been partaking in. So I think from that perspective, you know, this program fits in very nicely with that to help, again, develop the youth of our community. And I think another byproduct, hopefully, is if you understand your own community better, maybe you'll stay here and continue to live and grow in the Madison area as adults and with your families.
Yeah, well, I think, Laura, it's a great opportunity to ask them the question, what could this program offer you that would get you excited or engaged in the program? I mean, what would you be looking for in the program? Why do you sign up for the ones you do sign up for, that type of thing?
That's an awesome question. So we can throw that out there to the students, and I know we're just running a little short on time, so we'll wrap it up there. And then I think a lot of these questions can again be further addressed in our small group breakouts if that works. Thank you, Dan. How about that question?
I'll go ahead. This is one very specific outcome that I think you could, but if you were to emphasize the education aspect of this program, I think something you might see is a whole lot of students that want to pursue this further in college especially. I mean, Sam and I took an AP Gov class, which was unlike any other class we'd ever taken or unlike anything we'd ever experienced, and then we both went out and sought an internship over the summer. So I think you would see students that have never experienced a civic program like this, they would learn that they really do have an interest in government or in a community or even in administration or in anything like that. And this would just provide them just the experience of learning that.
Also on top of that, like besides education, like within the civic kind of environment, you kind of, it opens your, because I've done like a civic kind of thing like this before. It also has like a social issues aspect to it, so it really opens your eyes up to the needs of not only your community, but like as a whole, like how it's like a recurring problem, like a pattern throughout the society, how you have, whether like systematic like racism or like gender inequality, you feel that within your community you have like kind of a responsibility to give back, which is like why I do the program Music Makers, because I feel that I get such a great opportunity. I want to help others that wouldn't be able to get those the same ones that I was able to get.
Awesome. Great perspective. Monica?
For like connecting with that as well, going to Badger Girls, that whole week was, the whole purpose for them making this program was, hey, we want, well, there's a guy and a girl week, but for us it was more of like, you know, women in politics, and that was kind of a big focus there, and it was also just kind of government in general and opening your eyes to that. And you know, there's 700 girls there, and there's a ton of them that didn't know anything, and they're coming out of there going, wow, maybe I'll, you know, try and get into a class into this in high school, or like go into college with this. So I think having this LGM Youth kind of distinguish itself into something, I mean, obviously it's very overarching, this whole group, I feel like, but kind of specifying, you know, here are our main 3 goals, and this is what we want you guys to take out of it when you're done with this program. I think just having that right off the bat will help students realize, hey, maybe I do want to be in this, or maybe I don't. Whether, just because I think if a student wants to enter this, they might be, oh, you know, application filler. Oh, it's just, you know, a leadership opportunity. But I think giving them kind of like, this is what you're going to be doing, and what we want you to take from it in your, like, whether it's community related, which seems like mainly community related. I think that kind of helps students make up their mind better than having it just a general, you know, leadership program.
Having some clearly defined outcomes where we want our participants to experience and take away with them would be important. Okay. Awesome. Any final last comments from our adults at the far end about our program, implementing it?
Good luck.
Okay. Well, this won't be the last. Obviously, we're going to break into the smaller groups and continue our discussion further. But if you would, I'd love to give this panelist a round of applause. Very helpful in helping us to further our project. I'll turn it over to Brian. Don't move yet. We'll get your research ready.
I'd like to keep the discussion going. I'm going to break up into groups of 4. Last 2 of the students at the back table, 2 more at this table, and Julie and Diane at this table, and Jim at this table. And the purpose of this is sort of to drill down and develop the pitch. And how do we make this something that isn't just an entry on someone's application to college? How do we make this something that for business is relevant, that they want to devote time and resources to help with and see the program grow? And the same thing for schools. What is going to make the schools and teachers take notice of this program and encourage students to get involved? So at each of the tables there'll be a list of questions to hopefully provoke discussion. And then if within your groups, if you'll nominate a facilitator and a person to take notes and report back when we're done, we appreciate whatever comments and help comes out of this.
More of like other colleges, like larger colleges do this, where it's just like, hey, we're gonna bring in this room downtown here, and they just like, oh, we're welcome. So I just think having, you know, limiting, like,
So where you don't have to
face-to-face.
commit to it, but there's more information about it, yeah.
Should we read the next question?
What are the things a youth leadership program should avoid to sustain student interest and involvement?
Exactly. How that can allow.
But this is for the the whole group, right?
It is,
Okay,
yeah.
so we're talking about.
So I'm gonna jump around the questions here.
Value added
What are some, how do we best encourage
that
community
you
business
would have to see to make it work.
support them?
Internship opportunities
You have to see to make that
beyond
justify.
Big heavy.
if they're getting credit for it,
Here,
and if you're working
you know,
longer term,
Yeah.
and you can sort of scaffold the level of responsibility they get to over time as they're learning. So I would say, you know, not needing to reinvent the wheel, but maybe a database of who would be interested in how sort of
They already support, they already understand it at some level. And some percentage of those, or would have some sort of link to, or they just know somebody else, you know what I mean? But you've got a big network already.
I think what we want to be careful of there is that, like, use the LGM.
I would also say that
Goes along by our.
We kick you out of your own seat there?
Oh, yeah.
a difference
That they're not
that
sending their own kids, they don't want
if
their
you're
own.
presenting them, and how do you get that to be bought into the school district? So not only are we getting something from the students, but we're also getting buy-in from all of your agencies in our investing in our students. I think that speaks very highly to that as well. So it's a different byproduct, it's not a student byproduct in terms of individuals, but it is in terms of a collective issue in the community.
One of the things that we discussed, and maybe you can let us know if that's a good idea or not, is with that what's next question, possibly getting internships with some of the business community partners. Is that something that would contribute to the value add?
Yeah, line addition
I
process.
think if you look at,
They do it, but I guess I've heard there's.
if you go to the school district website, you can even see Dr. Cheatham's strategic framework. And when you look at the strategic priority 2, really that's about the reform of our high schools and creating a
So
personalized
I've actually heard it both ways, and what
for
actually
kids
works.
to become college career and community ready. So this idea of internships, of dual credit, of virtual learning, and of really engaging our business community in a different way in our schools is, I think, a very exciting direction we're heading. And so what might be some byproducts, might build some of those types of things into this program or byproducts of this program.
Based on what their experiences are, I think that would be great.
As potential parents or business partners at this table, what sort of things would you want to see come out of a project like this?
Farland just heard about it, so.
You have to build up community trust there. I think that's gonna be appealing both to students specifically. One thing we hear all the time is that
And this is the first we heard from these.
kids coming out of high school today, kids coming out of college today.
I'm gonna stay with the business.
Sort of
What are the
social issues
top
and community issues and,
Here to success.
it's not just about paycheck anymore. You know, you've got to get that sense
So
that
what are the,
they're working on a solution for a problem. So I think it has to be something that's both community focused and issue focused. And then schools and communities and employers and all that, you know, working
I don't know if you're planning to do like a project or something with some kind of
it'll be numerous.
way to instill, accountability and, that, and depending on what, who, if you got these guys, you're gonna have a problem with that, but just kind of, working on and developing that element of that aspect of accountability.
I think with that, the lesson of social change, and I think often kids feel like they're just kind of
What they want to see.
in the system and being moved along by the system as opposed to recognizing the power that they have to create social change and make things better, whether it's school or programs that they attend. So I think that's an important lesson. We currently, we have a lot of interns. Obviously, we don't pay our interns, but we have a lot of interns that are some of our college students.
but the last year and then coming up again, starting very soon, we'll have a high school intern. And I think about the things that as high school students that they're immersed in at the police department is pretty amazing. They get a lot of experiences that most people wait until they're 22 years old to get, and they're getting it at 16 or 17. Especially if there's already a career focus or some particular interest that can, we gain from that.
Any last thoughts about that question, or should we move on?
On the manufacturing side, you get into the same thing with.
Keep on task, I guess, between their monthly meetings. So it would likely end up being, for the participants, it would likely end up being more than one day a month. It was just like the whole group would meet one day a month. That would be more, speakers would come in and do more education and training on those days, and then your work on the projects would be
Yeah, I think there's something very fulfilling, especially when
That liaison.
The main reason I tried that, to be honest, is to get out of school, but in terms of something where, you were required to serve out of
You had done a small
It
fry.
might have to be a
yeah,
second official
so
that
they,
rather than setting up.
Just
there was
suggested,
feedback,
yes.
and you were working with
Just a little
their
bit
leaders there.
more guided.
I like the program, but I just execution.
And then,
I catch people like me.
also, we do meet, try to meet at least twice a month, maybe more. So I'm not suggesting that they need no any more than an extra day a month, but definitely having a piece of guidance citywide general session.
I think it was, that interested
I mean, we do it like
support you were getting, and
but for that
part of that
we
too,
always
I think still
having
they were
a
interested
good
because
one
they were actually
is someone
involved
who
in
can
the
facilitate
and I think
with
a big part
the
of it
age
is
range
that,
and
actually like the.
keep the conversation going, keep them on task.
Set up programs like that, they can put you in a room, talk to you for 8 hours, and then you leave. Whereas this, you actually got to make skills.
So what you say?
So whether it's making a new project or anything else, we learned for a week, but once we start all projects based on skill-based social skills.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Is this program only going to be about social skills, or are you also going to be about social issues in our community and like
No, absolutely would learn, I mean, you would have to build the foundation on that.
So it's like
You're not doing the same thing. You're not
Exactly,
doing
yep.
the
That, and that's, I mean,
morning
it's easy for us to build and have a hard time, but the way our program works, we'll have, so for example, we
just in the
had,
morning, they wouldn't be missing.
we meet in
their
different
morning
locations, so for
classes.
example, we had one meeting at like the
We
city
could
building,
alternate
I
it,
think
there's
was that where we
maybe they're
learned
only
about
missing.
city development, financing, and, that kind of stuff, so you
Hello, we're in World Cap. We could do a quick debrief and then hear from each group, what are the salient and the takeaway points. We'll start here. Would you remind us who was in your group, who was stakeholders?
We had Julie and
Diana,
sorry.
Oh, that's good. You're doing an excellent job.
I can represent. I think the biggest thing that we got out of Julie and Diana from their perspective in selling it to school administrators, to students, to parents, to businesses, it's all about the value added and having a clear message about exactly what outcomes we're looking for, how we support outcomes that each of the agencies, groups, schools, whatever, might be working towards, and just having that nice and tight.
and did they suggest any ideas as to what those outcomes or those specific value added would be or should be?
No, we did not get that specific. There was a lot of attention to kind of the nitty gritty that still needs to be worked out. So what's the selection criteria, busing, food, liability, supervision, all the things that really make programs work, that needs to be defined clearly for everyone, and then outcomes need to be developed. Did I miss anything? Go team.
Next, Jim Morgan, the business group.
Yep, we had Jim in our group, so it was from a business perspective, and as far as what can we do to promote it to the business leaders, I think the biggest thing that we had talked about as a group was just to make sure that, and again, that there's outcomes that are specified, that the businesses know and understand what the program is all about, what the outcomes are, and what would be their role in supporting this program. Is it that we're looking for business mentors? Is it we need the businesses to help give tours? Do we need money from the businesses? And if so, exactly what is that money going to go for? Jim had a great idea of having the business, from an HR or training and development perspective, help facilitate those sessions that would give the students skills in communication, skills in leadership, maybe having them do the personality assessments too, where the students can again understand different personality traits for themselves and what they might see in others. That would be important, so we thought that was a good idea. And then we talked about not as much the pitfalls, what to avoid, but kind of on the flip side, what can you do to help further sell the program? And our group came up with a lot of great ideas. The program should be about helping others, should be about having fun, having a sense of community, being able to build friendships, being able to increase your level of responsibility, to build a personal brand. I thought that was a great idea. How can we help these young leaders understand what their personal brand is? And then communication skills we thought were really important as well. So we can help the program avoid pitfalls if we make sure we focus on these avenues or these perspectives of what might make it a great program instead.
Thank you.
Anything else from the group?
Going next to the student group in the back. Left corner.
We had Olivia and Samuel in our group from Madison West. In terms of selling the program to the students, Olivia and Samuel were most encouraging of getting teachers involved and trying to figure out who those particular teachers are that seem to have the best connection with their students and seem to be most in tune with their students and their students' interest and potential, so that they can then identify the target group that we're looking for. So students who aren't necessarily in every existing leadership program under the sun, as these two seem to be, but really have the potential to develop those skills and become really great leaders. So they thought that teachers are really the ones who are going to identify those students for us. So rather than trying to market directly to the students when they may not necessarily be looking for a leadership organization to become part of, rather than marketing directly to them, to focus on the teachers who will then identify them and have the personal connection with them to get them to participate. Beyond that, they had some really good thoughts about the structure of the program itself. We talked a lot about the possibility of making it a 2-year program, where the advantage was that you then get 6 solid sessions of kind of core curriculum and instruction and knowledge building before students have to commit to any kind of a project or anything like that. So it helps them build their base level of knowledge, and it also helps them form personal relationships with one another before they have to jump in and come up with some kind of project in a small group so quickly. So that was most of it.
And then the final group, I ended up being the spokesman for that, was also a student group. And I think sort of the takeaways were the push really needs to come from administration to teachers to the students. And the teachers should nominate perhaps a number of students. And then from there to sort of like take away pressure from the students to feel like they have to participate. If there were a program overview meeting at which there would be a presentation about what is LGM Youth and why they might be interested in joining it, that would be a good way to both build the brand and encourage students to participate. We then talked about things to avoid. anything that resembles like school. So there's strong push. It's got to be hands-on and yet somehow building leadership and teaching leadership skills without really realizing it. Second was avoid a rigid, inflexible structure. Programs should be adaptable. It should sort of be organic and driven in part by the students who are participating and responsive to their needs and their interests. The third was avoid weekends and avoid days when school is closed. Those are sacrosanct, and we shouldn't. And then they wondered about if there was a possibility to, well, first they thought that we should emphasize the origin of LGM Youth in LGM, so to sort of, especially in that first year, give the program credibility that, as some of the students said, we had no idea that there were all these professionals meeting and doing this stuff. Sort of to bring them into the fold or the club, as this is something legitimate and not, although it's new, there is history there. And then to leverage that network as much as possible to either job shadow or build a network for LGM Youth that also includes LGM. Find some way to do that.
Yeah, I'll just add too, real quick, because I think we talked about a 2-year program, and we had Monica in our group, and she spoke very candidly. At the panel too, but the importance of trying to drive diversity, because if you just open this group up to everybody and say join if you want, you're going to have the same group at the table every time. So the 2-year program for what we were talking about was maybe your first year you have a very strong junior class that mentors a sophomore class that's not quite at the involvement level as the panelists that we had today, but they become those those leaders the next year, and then they mentor the sophomore class that comes in. So you can really reach a group of students that they're maybe not on the forefront of all the leadership groups, but they want to participate. They're just not quite sure how, or they're just not quite comfortable doing it yet, and they need a student mentor to really get them involved and kind of give them the feel for what they would be doing in these groups. So I thought that was a very interesting point.
Which ties in well with what Jim said about if it's going to be successful, you need a mentor that's there for more than just a day or more than just that 6-month period. Something more long lasting. Thank you. Brad?
All right. Now, if you see the next item on our agenda is a World Cafe. How many of you have participated in the World Cafe before? C3. So, what is a World Cafe? It's exactly what it sounds like. Vanna? Another one. Third one. So, everyone from the class is there's going to be 5 of us teaching how to make world cuisines. Julia is going to be teaching how to make empanadas. Martin is going to be teaching how to make his favorite ground beef. Dan, the Canadian delicacy poutine. Betsy, Mediterranean chicken. And Jason is going to be teaching how to make French fries.
I didn't even get steak.
No, actually, it's small group discussions, similar to what we've had, where now that we've talked about how to sell it, we're going to talk about the program itself. We've done our research, we kind of know what other programs are doing, but we have a very valuable resource in the room, which is you guys. So we'd like to know what you guys think about opening session with Jason, the nomination and selection process with Denra, curriculum with Brian, graduation with Laura, and the service project with Andrew. They were allowed to name their own tables, so I don't know if they came up with names or not. But you guys are the ambassadors of meaning. So you're traveling around the table world as ambassadors. Next, please. So there's going to be 8 to 10 minutes per table, 4 to 5 people per table. Visit each table once. Do not stay in your same group. Mix it up and share ideas. Don't be afraid to share ideas. So Make sure you visit each of us once and mix it up so you're talking with different people, getting different ideas. And with that, we are going to have different snacks at each table. Does anybody have any questions as far as...
Time is up, is there gonna be a bell?
Just show up.
And then you can show us
In
you, I
response.
got the
The people at your table,
I love empanadas.
spread out and go to different tables.
Sorry, I'm just, I don't follow the video, so what does that food have to do with?
I would describe it like that. You know what a calzone is, where it's pizza dough with stuff in it, but
I think this first, if we get this thing sold, this opening session orientation is going to have to be really good, because this is going to start the work. Okay, so, you know, years down the road it might not be as wow, but I think the first one is to kind of get wow to it, to really get the kids interested and keep the word of mouth going. And that one idea about having strong juniors in that first class does make a little bit of sense. Then they can be mentors when they're a senior, and they might be more willing to do something unique and different than maybe that next child. So we're just looking for what type of opening session orientation looks like, what type of activities will be there, how long should it go.
The opening session had to be in the school, it could be in any other.
This is a free-for-all. You can design this however you want, because as you saw, we're still trying to figure out with the school what it's school day or not. And since we are pulling other schools, it could be logistics. But this is if you had a budget, if you had a big, if you had all the money, and you had all the schools on board, and you had days, weekends, whatever you want. This is just kind of really good.
I will do it in like in una terrace.
You name it. You just.
And then I will invite people from the LGM, you know, and alumni, and the current LGM team. Especially to be part of that ceremony, so the children or the kids can see that, you know.
So make it feel like they were really.
They're picked and they're important because these people come to this to make the time to meet me, and you know. Then you can display the whole program there.
Is this after the students have been selected?
Yes.
So selection would be September, October, first session will be like November.
So do it outside the school. Do it in a nice, maybe nice place where the kids feel, I don't know, special. Make it feel special. I don't know. Give it like a, I don't know, like a nice binder with your shoe, with all the information that they will need, so they can bring to the next session.
Some programs give out hoodies.
Goodies, so that.
Yeah, they do a hoodie, so there's a brand name right away.
Or like a
T-shirt with the.
Yeah, students love all of that. Yeah,
right. And this is where we want to try and get the businesses involved. They help with the cost of the hoodie, and then they get their sleeve or they get something on the back, and they get their name. So.
Maybe you also can invite the parents. I don't know.
Monica said she thinks you should do, this is aside from an opening session, but like she was saying colleges, prospective colleges come into the high schools and speak to students who are considering going to their university. She thinks that LGM should do a similar thing. Invite students that have been selected to attend an orientation or just a briefing about what LGM Youth would be. And then from there they could make the decision if they wanted to apply or not.
Oh, this is before.
This is before, but I still think it ties into the orientation because she said you're going to have a hard time getting students to join the first year if they don't know anything about it.
That's why I was asking about that, because I think that the recruiting process is going to be tough to get the word out there, to get all the students to understand what it's about. You have informational.
But we are not doing recruiting. We have the kids. There's another session. Is another group doing that? No?
It is orientation, so I mean, this first year is going to be unique. So I like where you guys are going with that.
We have an informational session to
That's
the
what
kids
the
there,
student was saying.
and you tell them about the program, and that's the time that the kids can ask questions, and you're there. And this way they understand everything, and their parents are welcome.
Yeah.
And on that day you have food, you have everything out for the people. And you have sign-up sheet right there on the spot. So after they're hearing everything, the parents there, you know.
Oh, but you're talking the recruiting.
Yeah, no, I know this is kind of.
Yeah, this is more, we are past that. We are past that.
But with the idea that there still is an application process.
But this one,
So,
okay.
you know, in conjunction with the opening session of the recruiting application process, now how do we make you feel special and part of the new community? So, Monona Terrace involve the alumni.
In alumni business.
Outside of school. So, evening. I think evening's better than weekends, or what do you guys think?
No, evening for kids, no. Maybe from 1 to 5, something like that. I don't know.
On the weekend?
The first year, 15 as a pilot, and then up to 30 every year after that. So about the same size as this class.
We got feedback from the students that we were with that doing it as a whole class would be something that they would enjoy. But rather than break it down, I think part of the pull towards a group like this is to really build that networking group of people that you normally wouldn't hang out with or that you wouldn't see on a daily basis, and collaborating all together as a full group and trying to learn from each other. Not that you couldn't do that if you broke them up into smaller groups, but I mean, if it's doable.
I think that working in a team of 30 would be very hard, and I think if you're targeting the people that aren't good at them, that you're going to get people lost. And they're going to be involved in their participation as engaged as they might be in a small school.
I mean, I guess it depends if you're talking about a one-day, everyone serves soup in the soup kitchen versus you actually do a project.
Similar to our project. I think the intent of the project as we're creating this group is to have something kind of like a project that we're all in, which gives each of us an opportunity to kind of take a leadership role, and in a group of 30 people, how does everyone get an opportunity to take a leadership role and really help drive a portion of the project?
And then you'd have more success, I think, with a smaller group. The groups can come together based on what they're passionate about.
No, I just think that
they're not trying to sell anything. It's like
we know what
dreams is what they call it. Basically, it's
what would sort of
you go into the space and you dream and you write down what goals are, dreams are. And that's it. It's purely marketing. It's just marketing. So it's a very strategic marketing that they place downtown where people just come in. They don't try to push anything on you, but that's how they get their name, American Family Insurance, out there in the community and how they express that they care.
What would be the
It has no
factor?
purpose
So
except for
like are the
marketing.
people there that challenge or what?
How,
I think though that kind of speaks to them saying that you have to know who your audience is. So can you pick a generic curriculum without knowing who the kids are that are participating in that particular session?
what issues are facing math.
But in terms of developing it, are there, who should help
How do you
develop
think
that?
that you can become more active in your community?
I think you should definitely have specific leadership skills training, like more of like what we had today with the life coach.
Things like that to get sort of
And how to
thinking
teach
about
some of
the
these
issues
high
ahead of time.
schoolers to lead their own students and then into college. So I would think some type of person like, I can't remember her name, but could probably help build curriculum. Public speaking, yeah, or I'm sure there's a specific leadership, isn't there?
Counselor might have a really good idea in power. They'll have to apply as freshmen, so if you're entering, they're like 14.
There are specific things that are repeated in these leadership trainings. Like when I did mine when I was a kid, we did the one we did at the city council. I don't know what we call it. We call it
is gonna have to include some of the teachers, whoever's nominating them. I think to some degree, you're gonna have to have some involvement from that group to get an idea of.
Or maybe other teachers.
Right,
You
maybe
don't
not.
want, you know,
maybe
people are gonna be
not the-
biased
right,
for their
right.
nominees.
Right, but somebody who has some familiarity with.
And I mean, part of that is great. What we don't want to do is, you know, bring a kid into the program who doesn't have like the super high grades. That's not doing okay, but then have the program negatively impact our work in the classroom, you know? Right. So I think your suggestion of the teachers is a good one, because maybe we go talk to other teachers and they say, no, you know, he's really struggling in my class. And I don't think it would be good if he, you know, had his attention devoted elsewhere, or not in my class, you know, even if it were just once a month, you know. I think it's
Martin, I thought what that woman in blue at your table said was really interesting about how.
Get it and be like, oh well, this is like second runner up, you can't be.
Feel like anything else we talked about,
But
diversity is good.
For a first year, I mean, I would imagine most of the kids are going to go with National Honor Society and all these other things that are already established.
I mean, you may have people who are great leaders, great contributors, who don't have high GPA, so they don't at that stage of their life.
Or I mean, they may be great leaders in music or something, not in the classroom academic coursework.
Right, but if there is someone who is that top person, they really want to do it, I don't think that should be detrimental. You know, you shouldn't, you know, like the kids who spoke on the panel today, if they really wanted to do it, I mean, they're obviously going to be graduating now, but it's those types of kids we shouldn't say, sorry, we're only.
And I think to a certain extent too, it helps that we'll start with these kids when they're not in years, because at the sophomore level, those kids have fully, I feel like, distinguished themselves yet as being lead everything. Because they're not old enough for National Honor Society yet, and they're not old enough to have gone back to meetings yet, or, you know, so I think.
I mean, the whole, the LGM group that we, you know, that we're in, doesn't have CEOs on the company. They specifically ask companies to kind of have people apply who are their up and coming leaders. So, I mean, I think what you could communicate to the teachers and to the people nominating is, I don't want your president of the student body, I don't want your people that are already at this level. We want the kids that you see potential in that could be, through this program, moved up to, you know, becoming those leaders. So I think you could actually make that sort of a point in what you're asking of the nominators.
But part of what I
I was not as excited when I saw the vegetables, but it's good to know you eat healthy. I was like, oh, vegetables, come on. Okay, so.
You'll be thankful because everyone else is going to be like really I feel great. You're going to be like,
I have energy. Yours today is the esteemed nomination selection process table. I'll just reiterate a little bit about what we were thinking. And all of this is kind of still subject to, you know, that's why we're here talking about it, is we want to get feedback from people, and so we're not, like, nothing is set in stone. But what we had considered doing was doing it kind of like a multi-part process. So we would solicit nominations from people, teachers, and really anyone who's in a position to work closely with students and be able to like target and identify who they think could be like a good up-and-coming leader. So teachers, guidance counselors, but even people outside of school, like church leaders, or, you know, any kind of like extracurricular activity. But we would get nominations, but then wouldn't just go on the nominations. We would have an application, which, I mean, I don't think it would necessarily have to make them fill out like 20 essays or personal statements, but it would be something, maybe some short answers or maybe 1 or 2 essays, so that it would allow us to get a little more information from them, but it would also, like, the participants would be demonstrating to us that they are going to commit to the program enough to actually fill out an application, you know. So basically, and then that would be reviewed by like some kind of committee.
or something like that. So what we're trying to do is get feedback on those ideas, and then also some more targeted feedback on how's that actually going to work. So the first question then is, how do you think that selection panel should be made up? Who should be on there? Who should be picking these people? Grown-ups.
Perhaps a teacher or counselor. One of the things that we were talking about in our group in there was the issue of kind of logistical stuff of this is going to be maybe a buzzkill, but of like just getting people there and code of conduct and all of those things, and is it possible to partner with somebody who already has all that infrastructure already set up, like an SCR, and then some students would be able to self-select also. They would be able to sign up because it would be marketed kind of as a class to a greater number of students. My fear of having the selection process be through teachers and things that some are great about nominating or recommending students, others not so much, and that they would maybe tend to nominate the same folks over and over again, or the same type of kids, and the kids that maybe the classroom isn't their strongest suit may be overlooked by teachers, and how to get around that. So also that there's a broader base, like you're saying, extracurricular, and how do you reach out to those people. So I don't know, I'm kind of flipping around here, but that the self-selection thing too, I think just has to be a part of it, because if kids know what they're getting into, have to go through an application process, maybe an interview process, that alone will weed out kids that may not be committed to the program for the long term.
Right. So you're saying maybe nomination shouldn't be a required step necessarily, so that if a kid doesn't have the privilege of having a really skilled home teacher, but they themselves find out about this program and think, yeah, that's something for self-selection.
I think that's a good idea, because you could still have the application and you need to endorse it.
Perception stays the same. Your natural self, if you're under stress or pressure, how do you act, how do you behave, what motivates you, that always stays the same. But how you view the environment around you can change over time. So maybe it's more how do you see or feel differently about the world around you, about yourself, awareness, or about the community in which you live. There's something like these lines and you actually ask that for their not provoking. I mean, just be so curious to see what the high school students say. How their life maybe has changed over 9 months. Get exposed to community and diversity.
So we touched on education, last question.
Just developing themselves as a team.
How much of a time should we devote to
Anything
this
else?
project?
What comes next for the graduates of the program? How do we keep them
So we
involved?
already got that. In the best case scenario,
Move on to civics.
it's already about this stuff. How much additional time in this is probably not over the
Civitas and regular LGM mix things up.
No.
You have to lower the same program.
Each time.
Or at
say less fortunate kids that don't have the ability to travel.
Because you might experience similar things in Civitas as you might experience in LGM.
keep it interesting.
Alumni, creating a LGM Youth alumni network.
Oh,
Keep
yeah.
track of them once they graduate from the program. Because they're maybe seniors in high school, you might keep track of them for 1 year, so you know where they're at. What happens when they go off to college? Keep track of them, keep them interested.
A listserv is what they do typically.
Some people have mentioned tools like
On the organization side, keeps an ongoing email list and
especially below.
I mean, that's how I
Who might be able to
You
benefit
can
most.
friend them in LinkedIn,
What's that?
Use LinkedIn
LinkedIn.
and Facebook, and that's still, none of that's gonna go away.
You're still gonna need like full-time staff to kind of, just like LGM.
Somebody to administer that
Someone
piece.
to do all of that.
I mean, that could be a great exposure point too for them to join LinkedIn. I mean, they might not have ever that conference site and then to join. But a lot of the youth group push up, and that's something that they look for jobs. I mean, that's getting them prepared after college.
That's a great idea. Facebook's more on the social side, whereas LinkedIn is more on the business and marketing side, networking, professional.
I think right now, if I were to hire someone tomorrow and the resume is set LGM, I would look at that candidate a lot differently than I would have, I don't know, 10 months ago.
So we haven't experienced our graduation yet on December 10th, so we don't know exactly what the day is going to entail. But let's envision LGM Youth. They've gone through anywhere from a 6 to maybe a 9-month program is what we're envisioning. They have 20 students. Maybe one of those days is a community project, service project. So now they're at the end of their 9 months. So what does graduation look like, sound like, and feel like for these students that are probably, again, sophomores, juniors, and high school?
Think about sports teams recognition kind of dinner where everyone gets their moment in the sun and call people up and
weren't quite sure how the
congratulate them, and not necessarily as formal as like a traditional graduation.
So bowling.
Seems like the high school kids nowadays actually like putting together videos like we're doing. And they post stuff on YouTube, and so I can see them doing something kind of silly, and you know.
Yep, they're better at it than we are. How do those things connect?
Do you have all one?
I did like the idea of possibly presenting your if you did a service project, possibly presenting, you know, like we're going to do a video through our project. Maybe the presentation of their video of their service project is presented at the graduation.
I think it'd be good if it was something like that, like that, invite mentors or teachers or people who supported them, parents. It's all been said before that.
No, this is good. One person said whoever recommended you, make sure that that person was there. Good idea. If we go that route of getting recommendations versus just applications.
I think too, what you want to do is wrap back in at the graduation. Try to wrap back in possibly new students who might be interested in doing it the next year. So offer it up to anybody, you know, to come to the graduation if they're interested in participating next year, so they can see the kind of things that they'll be working on.
It's a great orientation, especially if you're showing videos. That's a great idea.
Awesome. Would it be important to have a certificate presented to the students? Or a plaque, or whatever it might be?
Kind of my daughters have trophy walls full of medals and.
So they like that idea?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, I'll be honest, I get those things and it ends up in the trash, so.
Mine are usually in filing cabinets.
That might be a guy thing though.
That's true.
That's just me.
You know, LG, you know, something to wear or something that would, you know, something that would promote it, but it would also be useful and be cool.
I would rather see it, with a logo on it, maybe, or
LGM logo.
they can bring to college or something.
You could give them a sleeve for their cell phone or their smartphone. Everybody's got one of those, right? It's LGM alum or LGM Youth graduation.
Right. That's a good way to promote it too, so that people see them with it.
Right.
LGM monogram ties, we talked about those.
Vests.
Maybe a nose ring or a, you know.
Tattoo?
No.
We'll brand them all in.
Semi-permanent, of course.
I think you could get real creative with the stuff that you actually gave them. Maybe that more than just a.
I mean, you could probably do the certificate too.
Yeah, you could do it.
Give them a gift.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great idea. Okay.
Cash always works.
To bribe them to get the next group to
Yeah,
come.
right.
So what qualifies categorize as a successful completion of the program? Does everybody just graduate automatically, or there's some criteria they have to meet?
You want to have a set out in the beginning a certain level of participation that's required.
Say participation.
And then if you're going to have a service project, you know, you have to have participated on the service project. You can't show up the first day and the last day of graduation.
Things come up where kids can't make it, but you set a certain, you gotta hit X amount of percentage or X amount of
7%, 6%, something like that.
Or you could have advisors too. I mean, one of the greatest things that we had was Julie with our project. I mean, she was extremely helpful, and she could be some of the, you know, you tell the kids.
Injecting my views into these answers, but as I think about it, it has to be aligned to program killing, because if once you get outside into the summer, all bets are off. The students are kind of
players until senior, junior now.
nope.
I think you have to create kind of that control environment. It's easy for some years to be a pilot to get a sense for how it is, you know,
Yeah, I agree. You're right. The summer it sounds really good at the
Anything
beginning
else
of
that
their commitment, but when you get to the summer, there's a lot of other things going on, and there aren't any sort of rules anymore.
People have vacation, maybe summer school, maybe not, jobs, sports, camps, other enrichment activities they're involved in. So the one question that we haven't touched on yet is how much time, if any, should be dedicated to developing the service project outside of class time? So outside of the actual LGM classes.
So like we do right now, where we meet as groups, like that's hard. I mean, that's hard for us to do as adults. Finding the time to do that.
Just got taught that you have to stand up on top of
It's hard.
passing people.
I think that's the first. I think to learn a lot in the first 1 and 2 years about the program and see what that trial, only during the class or the during the dedicated time, I think would be the safest way to start, and then see how that goes.
Well, you've just agreed with every other group so far that it's a great idea to say we can all meet outside of class. We don't need to take class time to do it, but you have issues of transportation right off the bat. And even if you choose to do something through digital means, Google Hangouts, Skype, that assumes that students have access to that technology in the first place, and that assumption can't be made. So I think as the consensus so far has been, as much as possible, there needs to be time dedicated in each class to the development of your service project, which will ultimately, it will limit the intricacy of what the projects can be, because you have a finite amount of time to actually plan it, but it'll allow, I think it can make for a more consistent product. Like, the project will actually happen, it won't fall apart because it's so intricate.
And you know, I think that that's a good point. If you couple that approach with the approach of them designing it themselves, then you get the buy-in, you get the passion, you get the time to be able to do it. And then if it expands beyond that, then that's the very organic kind of, extra development that you're looking to create. So those components all seem like that would work really well together. Other examples that I've seen, they do have a group project that they design the orientation themselves, and then they pick something that they have a chance to do on their own.
Oh, I hate it when they're not actually unfortunate. Tell me who your friends are and I will tell you who
So
you
you'll
are.
miss my.
Oh, you are the greatest in the world. Nice. Put that in your pocket when you have to pick me up. I do that.
Sorry.
I need someone to recognize.
Soccer practice, right?
And mine is fast and well learned, never forgotten.
You're the only one who's got a true fortune. The rest of ours are just... Mine is, you are the greatest in the world.
Kumbaya.
Oh, well, that's very nice. I mean, you can't do anything if you don't know that, right?
Now you can go on with the rest
You can't
of
do
your life.
much if you think this, actually.
So we're at the graduation table. So we've had our successful program throughout the year, whether it be 6 months, maybe up to 9 months. We had about, we had about 20 students participating, and quite possibly they did a service project as part of their 6-month, 9-month program, and we're at graduation. So the question is, what should the end of the program look like then? we haven't gone through it yet ourselves, so maybe we don't quite know what to expect on December 10th. As soon as.
I think it would be cool to allow the class to sort of design how that day might go. So if they had small groups, they could decide how they want to present that information, whether it's through a skit or a video, or they just all stand and talk about it, or they share some poster or something. I think giving them some creativity and how that day is planned.
Well, then give me something that is asexual.
And what are they sharing? Their service project, or what they learned, or what impact the program had on them?
I mean, I think depending on how the service project is structured, that would certainly be a valuable thing to share. It'd be nice if there was some of the broader learning too that was shared. And I think they could have some fun. Like if they were tasked with summarizing each day's session in 3 bullet points or something, and those flashed up as a PowerPoint, and it could be kind of fun and even humorous, but also meaningful. And presentation skills. Give the presentation skills, and maybe a really good way of like honing in like your 3 main takeaways that they might actually take on.
And maybe what impact going forward that the program's going to have. So they're thinking about not just what happened during the year, but what can I do to implement this going forward for me personally.
Yeah, maybe that's personal versus
maybe.
There was something it would be cool if they could connect,
are
you thinking that the schools are going to have open opportunities, or is there going to be like 2 students per school?
Yeah.
I mean, what is, I guess I wasn't thinking that it was like this broad thing. Yeah.
Just, I mean, especially for a new program. I think we'll be more likely to have problems. They're thinking of not enough students. So they're thinking of too many, at least in the very beginning, you know.
You know, if they're doing the other leadership and the other what they're nominating.
Yeah, it's basically